What is up, y'all? This is JT. I have one of the latest C3 impact drivers before they switched over to a different brand, and they went with Stanley Black & Decker. And this is the one with the 3 LEDs on it. And I tried to pull the front of this off so I could re-grease it, because obviously the grease is all worn, gone, misplaced, whatever. And also, this one has a very easily slid out planetary set right here, and it probably needs a little bit in there too, because as you can see, there's a wear spot right there, and you can see inside there where the gears are engaged. But in here on the gears, as well as the friction point in the very back, needs grease, as well as these gears. And then Ingersoll Rand, if I can even pick this up, it's greasy, recommends putting a dab on each side of this where the little dimples are, and then a little bit on the hammering mechanism, as well as up there in between. There's a friction point up there, and there's a little slip ring, and it kind of slides around, but it's just grease basically that you know, there's no ball bearing right there. There might be a ball bearing inside the front, I have no idea, because I didn't take the piece all the way out. I didn't take out the retention clip, but we gotta get some grease in there because it's slowly degrading on its power. But one thing I didn't realize is this sticker right here, this little sticker right here actually holds it together, and the buttons underneath, and well, I can't hit it. Yeah, there we go. But as you can see, I hit the button. There's the 3 LEDs, but I tore a piece of the sticker at the very corner because I didn't realize I was holding it together, and then I flicked the screws all over the place, so I got the screws laying here. But you basically have to take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 screws out, and then this is what you're left with. Make sure you got paper towels laying around, because this grease is disgusting and it won't come off your hands. But oh yeah, that just made a mess. Everything in the motor side is functioning very well, and I can't really see in there to see the brushes, but eventually those will wear out, but they are not worn out as of yet. And you see this one has extra wiring here, and then this goes down to the 3-speed selector, and all those wires you got to make sure to be careful of. But in order to get the front off, there's a little clip right there, that white one. You have to disconnect this, and it runs right up the side here and then circles up and plugs in. But my older one didn't have that, so it was easier to get to. All you had to do is pull out these front screws. You didn't have to pull this whole thing apart in order to grease it. And also on the older one, I couldn't get the anvil to pull out. So now I can get grease down in the springs, I can get it in the gears, any of these little spots that need it. So that's going to be fun. I'm going to actually have to do this by hand because I'm using a car grease gun, and for some reason it won't pressurize, so I might have to just pull it apart and do this by hand, and that's why I have gloves. Yeehaw. But that's how you take this unit apart. I have not seen any videos on how to do it, and the model number is 315.ID2025. 315.ID2025, or maybe it's this number, CS1432. I'm not really sure, but it's very similar to the Ryobi. It's very similar to the C3 impact wrench, the latest one before they got away from the C3 kit. And I guess you have to take all these apart in a similar fashion in order to get this part off to grease it, because as you can see, the grease is pretty well, you know, it's seen better days. And it's better if you take this off and then grease all the points. And I'm going to see if I can do that real quick. Okay, so this is the cleaned out housing. There is a friction washer in here, and you can tell which way it goes because you can see where it's been sliding on the anvil, or the whatever this is called. And I've cleaned it all up. Yeah, there you can see the slide line. So that obviously needs grease. And also this shaft right here, it does not have a bearing inside of this housing. It's more or less just kind of like an aluminum cam. And ooh, a piece of plastic fell down in there. That's not good. And there's another friction washer down in there, and it's a really small one. So there's the big one, there's the small one, and it goes right over the shiny spot next to the screws. So we're going to get grease in all of this. And I've been taking a paper towel and wiping some of the excess grease out. And then also we'll have to deal with this one as well. Try not to get too many particulates or dirt particles in there. And then once we clean it out as best we can, then we can start greasing it up. Okay, so got most of the excess out. This uses a different type of grease as they do in this one. And there is manufacturer specified grease for these parts, but I don't have them, so I'm using what I have. In this one, you could use wheel bearing grease and whatever, but for now, I'm going to try to use like a ball joint grease. It's a little bit less thick than what's in it. This is more of like a thick, high temperature. And what I'm going to do is try the little bit thinner. If I could get some to squish out, I'd show you. But no, see, the pump's not working. I actually have to unscrew it and pull it out of the top of this. But next, I got to clean this and get it prepared, and then I'm just gonna basically hydraulically press it in with my fingers. And as you see, there's a hair on it. We do not want that. Okay, I've got grease in here, under here, in there. Probably too much, but we're gonna learn this the hard way. If I have to, I'm going to take this all back out, clean it out, and use a lower viscosity grease, because this is quite a bit thicker than I was hoping. But we'll see how it works. I just jammed it in there and hydraulically pressed as much as I could in there. And here's all your collet springs, washers, and retainer clip, and the 2 ball bearings. So what I got to do now is slide this on, and then basically reattach the LED, and then start putting it back together, and we'll see what it does. I honestly think this is so thick it's going to bog it down at first, but after the grease kind of wears in, gets hot once or twice, it'll kind of change that, is what I'm hoping. Otherwise I'll have to get a specified impact grease for the gearing is going to be different, as well as the hammering action is probably going to be another different one. So we'll figure that out. Okay, I got it somewhat put back together, two of those to hold the motor from falling out. Okay, so I got it all back together except for the collet. But before I even do that, what I could do is go test it to see if it's working properly. But nah, I'm going to go ahead and put it back together. But and as I suspected, the grease I used is a little bit too thick, so this will possibly have to be done again. Use the manufacturer specified grease so that you don't have to do it more than once. And to put this back on is basically you just put the ball bearings back in, make sure they stay. This you can go ahead and use the thick grease to hold the ball bearings in, it won't make a difference. And then put the spring back on, or the collet first, and then the spring. So ball bearings, collet, spring, washer, retainer, in that order. But then we'll test this out. Okay, now we got to find our bag of screws. Here's a screw, T25. Then we're going to take it over to our testing block. Find a fresh new spot that hasn't been used. Figure out how to film this. Now let's see if this thing is any quieter. And much easier if I had a magnetic bit. Okay, another brand new hole. It actually feels like it lost a little bit of power. Not sure what that's all about. Ouch. So you can tell on this particular model, it has a lot more torque and speed in the forward rather than the reverse, and that's very hot. But that seems to be normal on the Craftsman / Ryobi, whatever this happens to be built at. So no, this will not pull lug nuts off. But my impact wrenches that are similar build
They do the opposite. They spin faster in reverse, so that's a good thing. But it seems to work. It's not bogging down too much. So if you need to do the same thing, use the proper specified grease, because like I said, it feels like it's bogging it down just a hair. And once it gets hot, once I really start using it, it gets hot, I feel like it'll break it down a little bit better, and then I won't have so many issues with that. But that's it. I've never seen anyone take one of these apart before, so thank you for watching, and don't forget to thumbs up and subscribe.